from the campus of Bowling Green State University.
Good evening and welcome to BG24. I'm Courtney Bryan.
And I'm Chase Bachman. It's Wednesday, November 4th, and we continue tracking results in the presidential election. Votes are still being tallied because of high early voter turnout and mail-in ballots, likely due to the worldwide COVID-19 pandemic.
According to a survey of election officials by CNN, Edison Research, and Catalyst, more than 100 million ballots were cast early across the country. So far, the Associated Press is reporting President Donald Trump has 214 Electoral College votes, and Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden has 264 votes. The candidates need 270 votes to win. All eyes are on a few states that are too close to call or simply have not had enough time to count all of the mail-in ballots. A peaceful transition of power from president to president has always occurred in the United States. However, in a September news conference, President Trump didn't clearly answer a question posed to him about the transfer of power if he were to lose. In fact, he reiterated that the election could be rigged if Biden were to win. I talked to a BGSU political science professor about the history of elections in the United States and if any past elections had been considered fraudulent. Donald Trump voiced his personal concerns over a fraudulent election. Associate Professor of Political Science, Nicole Calif-Hughes, says it should not be a concern.
There is no widespread electoral fraud in the United States. There is no statistically significant electoral fraud in the United States. There is practically zero. It is so far under 1%, it's like 0.00000. Like, it's just not, it doesn't exist. We do not have widespread electoral fraud.
For a president to refuse to leave office is unprecedented in the United States. Calif-Hughes notes that it would require buy-in from all branches of government for that to happen.
So it not only requires a president to not agree to a peaceful transition of power, his party to agree not to have a peaceful transition of power, maybe the court system to support him, and then an overwhelming legislative majority at pretty much every level for all of that to happen.
If the winner of the election is still up in the air by January 20th, what happens? The United States government has a system in place to ensure the leadership role is filled.
So essentially what that would mean is that everything is going around in circles, and so technically you'd go with the line of succession. So you'd go to the Speaker of the House of whichever party has the majority in Congress after the election on November 3rd.
Although we may not know the winner of the election right away, one thing is clear. A peaceful transition of power will happen. Reporting for BG24 News, I'm Courtney Bryan.
Students gathered in the BGSU Union on Tuesday night for the election watch party. The BGSU Votes Initiative and the University Activities Organization co-hosted the event. The groups held the event in the Student Union Ballroom starting at 8 p.m. A few dozen students attended the event and watched the updated election results on PBS. The event was also live streamed on Zoom for students attending virtually. BGSU Votes team leader Alyssa Toman says the watch party created a safe space for students watching the election.
To provide like a really safe space for students to just kind of like be in community with other people as results are rolling in. So I'm happy with how things are going right now. People seem to be enjoying themselves and enjoying the crafting, and we're excited to just be able to offer this like on-campus, in-person opportunity for students to be with others tonight, since I know this will be a challenging night for people either way.
Students in attendance could also play trivia and made crafts last night as they awaited the results. A day after a historic election, it's still unclear who will win the presidency. We talked to students at BGSU about how they're feeling about the pending election results. Analysts predict this year's election turnout will be the highest since 1900, when more than 73% of eligible Americans cast ballots. However, that election had a smaller voting pool because women did not yet have the right to vote. That would come in 1920.
As social media influence continues to increase, there are worries about foreign countries interfering with American elections. This growing concern of interference and fake news in media are affecting both presidential candidates. Megan Stibley reports on how potential foreign influence could impact future elections.
In a 2019 study, it was recorded that 79% of the United States population had a social networking profile. This percentage has been increasing throughout 2020 and quarantine. Although social media has many positives, a downside to it is that it spreads fake news 6 times faster than real news. This can have very dangerous effects on the 2020 presidential election. Foreign countries such as China, Russia, and Iran have been taking advantage of this. Through hacking and social media, these countries have been able to spread fake news to U.S. citizens. Professor Ha, a professor in the School of Media and Communications, speaks about why foreign countries are interfering with the election.
World leader. So every move that U.S. make can affect many countries in the world. So many world countries have an interest in knowing who would be the leader and try to find a favorable leader that would be favorable to their country. So it's normal.
Incredibly difficult and complicated process goes into trying to figure out how true the information is that the foreign countries are giving. While some Americans don't believe anything that the foreign countries are saying, some do. Professor Jackson, a professor from the Department of Political Science, discusses how he thinks foreign interference will affect who certain voters vote for in this election.
Affected are low information voters and people who are not that engaged with politics. And generally speaking, the people who are less engaged with politics and have the least amount of political information are also the least likely to vote. So I think that gives us sort of a backstop in terms of the amount of influence that these disinformation campaigns could have.
Some foreign countries have been trying to interfere with Biden's campaign, while others have been trying to interfere with Trump's. Professor Jackson gives his thoughts as to which campaign he thinks will benefit more from foreign interference.
These foreign countries who are the most involved in U.S. elections are just trying to sow discord and dissension. They would be trying to do something to get Trump reelected.
It is very important for voters to be able to sort out the facts so that they do not cast a vote based on fake news. Professor Ha sends a message of caution to voters in this election and elections in the future.
Very careful selection, not just based on one story about the candidate. We should look at the candidate full record, full profile, what the person is, the character, the thing that they have done, the policy that they have done, what they have done before.
Reporting for BG24 News, I'm Megan Stibley.
Delaware elected last night the country's first transgender state senator. Sarah McBride, in a tweet on Tuesday night, said, "I hope tonight shows an LGBTQ kid that our democracy is big enough for them too." Initial tallies show her taking 73% of the votes, easily winning her seat in the Senate. McBride formerly served as a spokesperson for the Human Rights Campaign. And the AP says fewer voting problems are being reported this year than in years past. Despite concerns over Election Day, the AP is reporting many polling places operating smoothly. Long wait times were prevalent in big cities such as Baltimore and Philadelphia. Some unique problems arose this year due to COVID-19. At one location, ballot scanners were jamming because of hand sanitizer on ballots. Since over 100 million people voted early, this helped keep lines smaller at polling places. Additionally, the Homeland Security Department's cybersecurity agency said there was no apparent sign of malicious cyber activity within the election this year.
So how do the residents of BG feel about this year's election? Who are people in town voting for and why? Reporter Ryan Lucien went to the streets in downtown Bowling Green asking people about their thoughts on the candidates.
Election day is over and votes are being tallied. Now America waits for the results. Like it is in Bowling Green, the views and choices on who to vote for are diverse.
I'm voting Republican this year. I trust him not to go off the rails too far, like the progressives want to do, and I think overall that does a lot less damage to this country than bad ideology.
Our current president, Donald Trump, has goals to keep America on his side. Trump advocates patriotic education, expressed opposition to the Affordable Care Act, and says he plans to repeal it. During the pandemic, while he didn't believe the mandates for mask wearing are necessary, he stated in July he thinks that masks are good, and says testing is a double-edged sword because it means more cases. Opposing him in the election is Democrat Joe Biden, former vice president under former President Barack Obama.
Just because it's a safer route and he takes his virus and stuff very seriously as well.
To help with the pandemic, Biden plans on implementing a 7-point plan, including the help of fixing the test and trace process and preparing fair distribution of a vaccine when it comes. He also plans to protect the Affordable Care Act and proposed tuition-free public college for families with below $125,000 yearly income.
He seemed like a much more reasonable, eloquent speaking individual compared to Trump.
Wants the Justice Department to investigate police and prosecutor misconduct across the country, and made it clear he will join the Paris Climate Accord upon entering the office. For BG24 News, this is Ryan Lucine.
Can Americans change their choice after voting early? After the second presidential debate, many Americans were curious and took to Google asking this question. Reporter Macy Austin explores this trending topic.
Last debate, can I change my vote if I've early voted, began trending in Google searches. President Trump later tweeted that you can change your vote in most states. But can Americans actually change their vote?
Mostly no.
You can change your vote in 7 states: Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, New York, Pennsylvania, Mississippi, and Connecticut.
I think it's interesting because I think we're thinking a lot more about the process of voting than we ever have before. I don't think it's going to be a significant difference in election results.
These states don't start counting ballots until election night.
It depends on the size of the infrastructure that they have for counting ballots. And that's what all of this depends on, is how many people work there, what type of machines they have, how effective that whole process is, and when they want the results available.
Although this is the answer to the obvious question, Americans may be searching this phrase in hopes of changing the way that they vote.
A lot of people have requested mail-in ballots or absentee ballots. And so it's possible to change how you vote. All of this varies from state to state as well. So it's possible that someone requested a mail-in ballot and then looks at the calendar and goes, oh no, I did not mail it back in time. You can then, in a lot of states, opt to vote in person.
Reporting for BG24 News, I'm Macy Austin.
It could be up to a week before the final election results will be counted. States have planned different approaches to counting ballots and reporting their results. In some states, mail-in ballots can come in several days after Election Day. Certain swing states, such as Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, all decided to wait until Election Day to begin counting mail-in ballots. Additionally, some states have decided to wait to report their election results. Instead of making a call on election night, this means that we may not have an answer on who our next president is until later in the week. Early indicators suggest a winner for the election could be predicted before a final count is in, but the race is close. As of tonight, Associated Press has still not called the race in 4 states, and a winner of the election has yet to be determined. The Electoral College does not cast their vote to officially decide our president until December 14th. And that's all for our election coverage tonight. Thanks for watching.
For updates, check out our social media at BG24 TV on Twitter or follow us on Facebook at BG Falcon Media. Have a good evening.